what exactly are AI agents?
My definition would be that it's kind of an automation technology or software that can do two things very, very well, which were not possible before.
Like what problems are agents solving, and like what use cases are they best in using agents?
It's becoming very, very useful. So let's take an example. Customer service function is a multi-channel function. Now these agents also have multimodality. Now they can handle text conversations. They also have the voice capability.
What AI agent would solve that AI technology cannot solve.
Right. So I think the way to think about it is, hey, what are the few building blocks that makes up an agent? So let's quickly talk about that. When you think about agent, let's say coding example, write the code, test the code, it should be able to pass the context and remember what was the previous step, what was the step before.
I know this is like kind of sometimes buzzword we hear, like people say SaaS is dead, but I don't agree with that. With all this AI.
Back in the days, it's like, hey, if you're buying IBM, nobody lost their job for buying IBM, right? So it's kind of versus if you bet your future into something new.
So can you give us some idea about what AgentForce is?
Why we are calling it AgentForce, and then what basically, because see, the building the agent is just your starting part. You have to look at from the entire SDLC, software development lifecycle kind of angle.
When agents come into play, will I have to move to another job, or?
So I see it as kind of evolution of the platform itself. Will the current form of CRM or SaaS will stay the same in 2 years from now? Answer is no. We have a very big Trailblazer community, or 20 million developers. Think of it as, can we do more with the same number of people? Okay, and how you do that? I would highly encourage everybody to learn this new stack.
Tips for product managers who want to be fit.
So here's my kind of advice that is more actionable and easy to apply. First is fix your sleep. I think sleep has the highest ROI, and then morning workout has the highest ROI. So those are my two tips. Fix your sleep, out in the morning, everything else will fall in place. Try it for 30 days. If it doesn't work, I will give you free coaching for another 30.
What capabilities you think that don't exist today that probably will be possible with AI agents and maybe like 2-3 years down the line?
Yeah, they don't talk to each other today. There's kind of there's lack of interoperability between how these agents, and because they're built by different teams, everybody's going at their own speed, like the organizations.
Hello everybody, you asked us and we have heard it. A lot of people were asking us about do an episode on AI agents. Today we had just finished a recording with Manjeet Singh. So he's a senior director of product management for AgentForce AI platform at Salesforce. So he's leading the industry first AI agent platform called AgentForce. So essentially, this guest gave us very interesting insights about what agents are, what can agents do, how agents are revolutionizing different industries. So this is almost like an AI agent 101 class for you. So anybody who's actually listening to this podcast will know everything about AI agents. So please tune into this podcast till the end so that you can learn more about AI agents. And also, if you're liking the episodes which you are creating on AI and AI tools, please go ahead and subscribe to Everything Product. And if you want us to cover any topics that are in your mind, please leave a comment about the topic which you want us to cover. And thanks a lot for following. So, Manjeet, why don't you give us a very quick introduction about yourselves?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks guys for having me. I think we chatted and good to connect today. So I'll keep my introduction very short. So yeah, I'm PM. Pretty kind of the path typically like a engineer, as an engineer turned PM, and I've been PMing a lot of kind of B2B SaaS AI-driven products. And these days I have these three very clear priority. Last year and this year is how to build better product, which means whatever word we can use, like winning products or product that get used or drive revenue, and so that's kind of obvious in my. Another priority I have is how to stay fit. So we can probably touch base on that as well. Why I care about so much of staying fit in the long term. And then I have two boys, married. Me and my wife all kind of it becomes Silicon Valley become our second home. So
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Manjeet. I know, product and fitness. When I read about your blog, right, your Substack page, I was like, okay, this is a deadly combination. Let me learn more about this. And I think you had a illustrious career building multiple products and also building 0 to 1 products with 100 million plus ARR and so on and so forth. So we'll dig deep into some of those expertise here. So, one thing which I was thinking, right, as people are listening to this podcast, if people can go out after they go through the podcast, if people can come out, at least learning about what agents are and how can they use or apply agents in their work. A lot of times, right, like I think in the last 2 months, agents has been like the buzzword, right? So a lot of new platforms coming up with agents, and I've also used these agent orchestrations platforms, which are actually accelerating a lot of mundane tasks and also repetitive tasks and so on and so forth. So if I were to ask you a very, very basic question, right? So what exactly are AI agents?
yeah, good questions, and I think this is a question at the top of the mind, and is like, hey, is there a standard definition of AI agent? And I think we don't have to be really kind of bogged down by the definition. The best way to understand is, hey, what it does for me. And if you look at it from that lens, then my definition would be that it's kind of an automation technology or a software that can do two things very, very well, which were not possible before. One is it can reason, it can take your goal and it can reason about it. One that can act, which is different than any previous form of automation that we have built and we have used, because there were no reasoning capability, because to do a task there are many different ways that you can pick any role or any task. There are many ways to do it in the workflow. And I think and these kind of, we reached to a point now where we have this fantastic model behind the scene that can do the best decisions and then take the action, which is kind of, I would say leapfrog kind of step function progress compared to previous form of bots or previous form of script-based automations or RPA. So that's how kind of I think about it. People have little varied definition, but end of the day, it comes down to these two keywords: reason and action.
And is it a fair understanding if I say that previously when we have automation scripts, it was more rule based, right? You give it a set of rules which the script follows essentially, and you're actually writing all of the rules of
Right.
what it does and where it goes and so on and so forth. Essentially, you're coding each piece of it, but now you are just giving it a task and letting it reason on how to do that. Essentially, you're kind of removing all of that layer of code that actually is added, and then you're giving it the reasoning capabilities. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good observation, because, and the way to look at most of the previous software and automation, it was more deterministic. Okay, here's my input, here's my output, and mostly kind of in that dimension. But when we think about agent, it is non-deterministic form of automation. And that's the most interesting part, because you just ask a question, give it a goal, and then it will go and figure it out, assuming it has access to data, it has access to those behind the systems and can act on that.
Okay. And like if you were to name some use cases, right? Like what problems are agents solving, and like what use cases are they best in using agents?
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of this research by myself, and then one is I can maybe start with what's happening in my world, which means that I work for Salesforce. We are a CRM company. We build kind of B2B SaaS applications for service team, sales team, marketing team, so from that lens, where we are seeing is, and I'll kind of stack rank them in the priority. So we're seeing the customer service role or customer service domain. It's becoming very, very useful. So let's take an example. customer service function is a multi-channel function, where your customers should be able to reach out to you through, email, WhatsApp, or, they should be able to call you. And good news, now these agents also have multimodality. Now they can handle text conversations. They also have the voice capabilities. If you just play with the, I would say, any ChatGPT voice mode or even Gemini voice mode, it's frictionless now. It can handle all those interruptions and ums and ahs, and then it feels very empathetic. So, and that's what was missing from, let's say, the customer service type of use cases. The latency has reduced drastically. And I was thinking about, like, hey, some of these demos we've seen, let's say Google Duplex demo and all that, like almost 7-8 years ago, and what happened between and why those things didn't took off. And what it comes down to is all the challenges around latency and not able to require a lot of training of those previous BERT model. Now I think these transformers and all that, those fundamental problems are gone. And now it's like, hey, how do we connect this, orchestrate this, and then build it together into the use case? The second one is obvious, I would say. I'm sure you guys are also seeing it, is in the software development.
Yes.
All these AI-based IDE like Cursor, Replit, and Windsurf, and then in just the last 3-4 months, all these companies, I think, have a huge adoption, because they were not if you think about, let's say, go 6 months back ago, what happened between, why there's an inflection point? Because we all started with like code completion. That was interesting. Okay, it makes me faster. But then just writing code is one piece of the puzzle. I should be able to test it. I should be able to write, different scenarios. I should be able to bug fix it. And that was missing. And that's where people were not able to, like, if I don't have strong, let's say, development skill, then I was stuck. I asked ChatGPT to write it, copy it there. If it doesn't work, I can't do anything. So now, as these companies like Cursor, that they applied this agents behind the scene. One agent will write the code, another agent can continue to assess. If it's bug, it will understand from your repository and will also suggest to you, hey, I found a solution. You just accept. And this whole phenomena turned into vibe coding. So I think that's right. Another term in the town. So third one we are seeing in the sales and marketing. A bunch of use cases, like the role of your SDR, the role of BDRs, the role of kind of the sales coach. I'm happy to give more example, but let me pause here to see if it makes sense.
No, I think that absolutely makes sense, right? So I think as you were saying, right, the initial use cases which there was a huge ROI was all the call centers, right, customer service and all of that stuff. But I think lately in the last 1 month, vibe coding has been such a huge thing. Like even we did a couple of videos, right, where we were coding, different websites and web applications using vibe coding. And it was amazing to see how fast you can get to that spot where you have a functioning website, right? So we all left coding like so many 10 years back, and we were able to actually build, like, I think we built 3 or 4 websites just in a matter of like a couple of weeks. So yeah, absolutely.
In a simple terms, if you want to differentiate between an AI agent and AI technology, how would you differentiate that?
Yeah.
And what AI agent would solve that AI technology cannot solve?
Right. So I think the way to think about it is, hey, what are the few building blocks that makes up an agent? So let's quickly talk about that. So I'll just keep it at like 3 or 4 layers. So one is you have to have an AI model. Okay. So it's common across, let's say, AI technology, or whether we call it machine learning. So basically, is a model component, very important, because this model is what's used to reason and decide which actions to take. The second is the memory and the context. Because when you think about agent, let's say coding example, write the code, test the code, it should be able to pass the context and remember what was the previous step, what was the step before. So now this the in context memory is what I think making it possible. And then third one is the data, obvious one, but super important, specifically in the enterprise space. You don't want these agents to just make up things and start hallucinating. That doesn't work in many roles. It's absolutely kind of a deal breaker. Think about legal and finance and all these regulated kind of use cases. And then trust and guardrails. So able to clearly define, hey, Mr. Agent, service agent, marketing agent, sales agent, this is your job, your role. This is what you should do. This is what you should not do. I think this combination of four things, the model, the large language models, and with multimodality, super important which one to use, and happy to kind of go into that side if you find it helpful. And then what data it has access, how do you set up the guardrails, and then clearly define the jobs to be done. And if you see, it's very similar to, let's take a product manager example. Okay. As a PM, don't see you as like let's say this is only one like monolithic job I do as a product management. If you break it down, okay, as a PMs, what we do is we have to figure out what we should be building. So then you start maybe with discovery and market discovery, customer discovery. Then you come up with a strategy, you come up with a content plan, right? And then you go into the design. And then, so if you look into these individual tasks, and then is like going back to like the previous, let's say the AI automation, then what you will do is in previous automation is you can automate some pieces in there. One was it was hard. It was required a lot of, as you were saying, heavy lifting. You need to have data science knowledge. You need to have the figure out how do you maintain, how do you fine tune, and then so I think a lot of those problems have now been abstracted away into these large language models. And in the last 1 year, I think these models become so better where I think GPT-4o is, can do many of these jobs. You don't have to like, create different models. And then, so just to give you a quick, let's say the document extraction, for example, the AI technology has been there for a long time. What we were doing is every type of documents that we need to deal with, we had to create a new model. Let's my birth certificate or, my tax filing. And then in last, I would say 7-8 years, we were doing models, OCRs and all. And, but now like, hey, you just need one good model. And now it starts to understand table format and then all the complexities. And then, so I think that's the key difference.
So essentially, the agent gets that reasoning capability from an LLM, right? But agent has its own memory and guardrails so that it can function and operate in whatever task it is given, essentially, right? And it changes so there could be general agents and there could also be vertical agents, and by use case or the platform, it varies, I guess. Makes sense. You mentioned about some of the use cases, right? But are there any specific real world examples that you have seen where agents have scaled so much or brought in efficiencies in any case?
Yeah. So in our world, we are having great success with different service agent scenarios, and it's being used by retail customers, used by commerce, and it's being used by like the different customer facing. So a lot of customers like Equinix, and then I can name them because those are public stories, or Wiley and others. What they have done is they took the AgentForce and then build out the agents integrated into their website, integrated into WhatsApp, and then and also the mobile app. So for the end user, so just to make it more concrete, right? So for example, for a retail customer, if you look at why customers are reaching out to a retailer is usually around like, hey, I placed an order, it hasn't reached, and I want to do order status tracking. Or I received the order and I need to return it. So return is another task. Or otherwise like, hey, I'm looking for refund or replacement. And then Now think of those are different skills in the agent. We call them topic in our taxonomy. So to the service agents, you can create order management as a topic, return, replacement, escalation, and now you deploy that. Now your customer comes and is like, hey, where is my order? In previous form of automation, like going back to rule base, you have to literally define the tree, and then you detect the intent, then you map it to what you should do. You probably write some script, and then only thing you do in case of agent is a simple English instruction. It's like, if anybody asks for order tracking, make sure you know the user. If you don't know, like authenticated user authenticated, and then if you don't know, ask for the email address. Don't go and make any change unless you verify. And it's a simple one, like anybody asks order status, it goes in the, I was mentioning the topic, it uses instruction to the topic. So think of it as a prompt. Now your user is authenticated, and now the second part is query. Let's go back to, hey, where's my data? Where's my order table? So you go and query it, get the order details, and then output. Your outcome is giving it back to the users. And if you ask where did the reasoning piece happen into this is a very simple example, by the way. The reasoning happened was when the user asked something. Now, did the agent went here and just did it blindly, or is it really took all these guardrails and instructions, and then so that I think the guardrails and part is super important, because in fact, a lot of customers, what they say is, this agent is only meant for service orders, and then these like 5. It should not do anything else. It should not tell you what's the the price of the Bitcoin, or what's the recite the French poetry, or create a Ghibli image for me. No, this is see, the model can do it behind the scene, but it's not a kind of a general B2C agent, or like a Chat GPT or Gemini product. So
Okay. And if I understand it right, you're saying that essentially the previous case scenario, it was more like you have a rules engine where you try to write or code every edge case of that service, which is being basically serviced. Now the agent, you kind of set a set of rules and also some governance around it, and it actually independently perform these tasks. Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Srinath, you had a question?
Your example, like how you put it in simple terms, I think that's very important, right? Like, especially for different industries, like, and for a financial industry like JP Morgan, where I work, the agents have to be programmed in a different way versus probably for retail, right? Like a lot of financial information and the what you can share, what you cannot share. There's so many GDPR and all that stuff. Yep. One question I always had, like, I know this is like kind of sometimes buzzword we hear, like people say SaaS is dead, but I don't agree with that. With all this AI, I was just curious, how do you see SaaS companies competing against some of the large cloud providers like AWS and Microsoft, who are going very big into this AI agents?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways to understand that, and then I'll give you. I may be biased in some scenarios, but let me give you my take on that. Right. So one way to start your thinking process is, hey, like, who has the data, and then data is definitely moat in AI world. So when it comes down to CRM, or let's say if you look at, okay, who have the let's say sales data, Salesforce for the last part, and few others, let's say HubSpot and others, would say, right, to top 3 who has the IT data. Then you talk about platform like ServiceNow, and then who has the HR data, then Workday. So that's kind of one lens to look at. So now the question becomes is, if there is this agentic workflow based automation, and whether it's a conversational agent or right embedded behind the scene, doesn't matter how integrated, who is in the best position to do it the right way? And I think then multiple people are trying, because if you look at, is OpenAI best position to do this? And then you come from that side of the argument and the strength. Okay, they own the models, they are the best frontier lab. These models are now becoming better and better, and then can do many things. And now they also said like, hey, this custom GPT was not in there, and we also have now kind of the agents flow and those, and everybody's doing it, like whatever, like these hyperscalers, and then we also have a lot of startups. There's like, hey, we are coming up with this very lightweight, fresh mind. Forget about these big monolithic platform. Okay, so that's now the second way I analyze it, and I'll give you the kind of my verdict on both is as a customer. If I am a CIO and I'm using multiple platform, of course, I have ERP. I like in your case, Series JP Morgan Chase. I'm assuming there's like at least 5-6 big these platform, right? One for IT, one for sales and marketing, and one for, and now everybody's trying to sell these agents. And now, how do you make the decision? Which platform to bet on? So one is the kind of this buyer's dilemma. As a buyer, which strategy do you take? And then, so here I have 3 observations. So one is, if the buyer is already heavily invested into a platform, more relatively speaking. For example, if somebody uses our entire cloud stack, service, sales, marketing, and then for them it makes sense because AgentForce makes it super easy. You don't have to worry, like, do any DIY. You just go and like have the subscription, and these agents magically show up, and then the only thing you need to do is like, hey, let me test it more so I feel comfortable. Versus if you take any others, then you will have to spend the time in building those, integrating those, getting data in and out, getting security approvals, and then like, so that becomes the other is like, hey, can we have a platform agnostic solution? It's an, if I'm a buyer, ideally I want to have it, but in practicality, it's very tough to do that in enterprise one, specifically like in BFSI or financial domain. The reason being is there's so much kind of the standard operating procedures around how do you handle the data, and then right from end customers and GDPR, and AI Act and California Act and all that, and then so you cannot take out data from many platform and give it to a company, whether it's a startup or technically it's possible, but then going through that pain and taking that risk is huge for the decision maker, because my job could be at line if something goes wrong, versus probably I should go with this big strategic platform provider where at least I will not lose the job. And people tell me story like back in the days, there's like, hey, if you're buying IBM, yeah, nobody lost their job for buying IBM, right? So it's kind of versus if you bet your future into something new. So that's the one. But I think we are still very new into this space, agent space. Just 6 months into it, to be honest. And it's very hard to make some predictions for me. We are seeing great traction in our world like CRM, because our goal is we want to give you the best CRM agents, because we understand the domain, we understand the metadata, we understand our integrations, and then and we want to have faster than anybody else for CRM, 1 billion agents. So that's kind of I'm excited about.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, definitely right. So B2B, the moat is data, as you said, right? But I think small consumer B2C apps, like even I've seen that a lot of people are vibe coding Splitswise app, which is like pretty easy to come up with the solution, right? So yeah, makes sense. And so Manjeet, like let's also talk about AgentForce, right? So like not many companies are actually developing an agentic product itself, right? Like, so can you give us some idea about what AgentForce is? What does the platform do? What are some of its capabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So think of AgentForce is, of course, our marketing brand. But the best way to understand this is, again, going back to, we have a CRM platform, Salesforce platform. And now if you want to have agent for each of those, the workflows, sales workflow, CRM workflow. So AgentForce is our AI platform that sits on the top, right. So once you turn it on, it gets kind of connected. Why we are calling it AgentForce, and then what would basically, because see, the building the agent is just your starting part. You have to look at from the entire SDLC, software development lifecycle kind of angle. So what that means is, how do you build it? How do you configure it? How do you test it? Different kind of testing, unit testing, regression testing, negative testing, and then how do you deploy it? How do you do all the version management? How do you monitor it once they are running into production? And so that's basically our value prop is one platform where you can have these pre-built templates. You pick a template and then provide your additional instructions, guardrail. And so what we say is, hey, if you can define your role, you can create an agent for in our world. And it's all kind of low code, no code instructions. We also have testing capability, like testing center for agents, super important. People underestimate that, and kind of it's a big pitfall to take any of these. As I was saying, like going back, these are undeterministic system. If you are just testing with few prompts and feel comfortable in turning it on in prod, you are guaranteed to fail, because your users and your customers are going to come back to like, hey, this is toxic. This is giving me hallucinating response. Look at this scenario. In Gemini, I asked, and it was, asked for pizza, and it was giving me to put a glue on my pizza, and right. So, and that's very scary for enterprise and big companies, because your brand at stake, and then right, you might also be open for lawsuit, and then so this testing and monitoring piece is super important, and we build all these pieces into the plan.
So essentially, you give all the capabilities for somebody to build an agent within your platform itself. And potentially, these agents would be replacing some of the workflows which these companies have created through your platform. Is that a fair understanding?
Yeah, it's basically, so one is, if I understood your question, is the existing software development tool set and the ICD pipeline, and that does not work for agent. So you need the new, like, how do you test a multi-turn conversation, as an example, which is different than testing an input or output, because here you have to say, hey, user said hi, then what did the agent respond? Then user said, going back to my example, what is my order? Then it asks for this one. So it's not just input and output. So you have to follow the thread from what happened in between. Did it access the right data? And it becomes a complex, and it's I think the right word here is eval, not the testing. And I tell people is there's two meta skills in AI that you need to learn. Everybody needs to learn. One is how to ask good question, which is prompting. Right? Prompt engineering and prompt engineering skills. And then the second one is, once AI give you response back, are you able to judge manually or automated, or like, is this response good? Is it acceptable, or is it bad? And that's what eval is, like evaluating across different dimensions. Is it accurate? Is it complete? Is it truthful? Can I see the citations and whatnot? So I think it's very kind of broad topic, but those are the two my top two skills.
So essentially, you are kind of building a suite of all of these tools to enable people to build these agents, and essentially it is completely different to the regular workflows which existed within the platform itself, right? So, and have a like very quick follow up. So I know I was talking to a couple of other people who work on Salesforce. These were Salesforce developers, and their question to me was, previously, like, we used to develop a lot of these automations within Salesforce as a developer, but when agents come into play, will I have to move to another job, or would I not have anything to do? So what's your answer for them, people like them who are actually developers on the Salesforce side?
Yeah. So I see it as kind of evolution of the platform itself. And then going back to your point, is like, hey, is SaaS dead, or whatever angle we look at. And so you have to see is like, hey, will the current form of CRM or SaaS will stay the same in 2 years from now? Answer is no. So it will evolve, because as an example, we added this agentic platform, and then how it will evolve. So now coming back to your questions, people who are doing different, let's say, kind of, we have a very big trailblazer community, or 20 million developers. It's like
That's big. Yeah.
right. So the people who are full-time, part-time, and build different roles: Salesforce admin, Salesforce developer, Salesforce architect, Salesforce, the business analyst, and all that, right? The question becomes is, if you have these agents that can do the things, what's kind of, I would say it's a productivity enhancement. So don't get anxious. Think of it as, can we do more with the same number of people? Okay. And how you do that? I would highly encourage everybody to learn this new stack, this new platform. Another way, hey, wherever platform is going, I will basically upskill myself and learn, and then in fact you are in a better, strong position to, in fact, ask for raise, or get better consulting dollars, and then whatever. So I see it as an opportunity to do more projects and build more applications, and then so, and it's more kind of, one is and I can go for long, but if I summarize, another thing that I'm thinking about is, like, in general, like, hey, what's happening in the job market with this automation, not just the Salesforce, but in general. And one angle to look at, if AI gets very cheap, if anything gets cheap, will it consume more? Which means it will open up more of job opportunities. And then, so I think there will be two type of forces, push and pull. And then, and it's not a zero-sum game. I think overall, any previous form of automation has created more jobs. This one is a little different. I don't think it will create that many more jobs. What we have to see is what will be the delta, the jobs that are getting compressed, the jobs that are net new. I think there will be, we have to see if it's a surplus or minus situation.
So essentially, you'd say, like, upskill, keep learning, and keep evolving, so that you can actually, be relevant in that position when the overall platform matures, right?
Evolve with the platform, evolve with data, specifically if you're in the tech space.
I have one follow-up question on when you meant how it evolves. Like, what capabilities you think that don't exist today that probably will be possible with AI agents, and maybe like 2-3 years down the line?
Yeah.
Where do you see the biggest impact?
Yeah. So I think this year, and then I would say mid of 2026, my guess is everybody will be busy in building agents for their use cases. Okay. Let's say in our case, CRM, Microsoft is, hey, let's do it for Office 365 and that workflow. So it's the kind of the business side of the agent. But then we also have consumer agents coming in. Like, hey, can I have an agent to book my flight, or book my dinner date with this restaurant? And then, so there's kind of consumer agents and then business agents. They don't talk to each other today. There's kind of, there's lack of, interoperability between how these agents, and, because they're built by different teams, everybody's going at their own speed, like the organizations. So what I see is this multi-agent. That's one thing, is 100% will happen. How these agents will do the handoff to each other, and that will be an interesting world, because if you think about every website getting agentified, and we all have our own agents which can do the shopping for us, which can do then what is the first degree, second degree, and third degree impact on advertisement, on the e-commerce? And then if all the agents are just visiting my website, then do I need to even show the ads, right? What kind of ads those will be? And then what basically the strategy, Google and SEOs, and then how those things will evolve. So I think the one is, I'm very kind of bullish about these multimodal, multi-agentic scenario. And there's two ways I think about business to business agent, or agents to agent, or agents to business to like just like B2B, B2C, B2C, B2A. So I think that kind of the word.
Yeah.
And
Steven, how do your thought process? Like probably starting now with B2B,
Yeah.
probably it will go to B2C, then it's all B2B, B2C, like it's all mix and match.
And the way I think about this is that, hey, you have these kind of a brain that can reason and can fire up actions, and then things that we are talking about. What if you give it arms and legs? What will happen? Right? So that's and I think intersection will happen, start to happen in some use case. There will be limited use cases, because one is you can think about like, hey, how far are we from having a humanoid robot in my home that can do starts to insure? So that's kind of the bunch of companies. Other is work, right? And we are also looking at, because from service management standpoint, like field service management, and then you have to think about a digital labor platform to manage those agents. In fact, last week when I was looking at Workday, right, and I was looking my own profiling Workday, like, hey, where am I? Which department I'm in, and all my details, and I'm like, hey, we need the same thing for agents. As you build more agents, which agent is high performer, and then if you're not high performer, shut you down, or like high performers, you give them more tasks and more jobs, and so this whole kind of the and we started to use the word digital labor, which is these software agents, and then when you give them legs and hand, we're like digital robots. So that's kind of a little bit of the two pieces I'm super I think excited about, but also a little bit of worried into second degree, third degree impact they will have.
So kind of an agent command control center.
Right, COE or whatever we end up calling it, but yeah, that's kind of
yeah, I think that's a a very powerful thought, right? Like, at least when you put that into a thought experiment, there's so much that you could do with just agents talking to each other and all of that. And especially one thing that struck me is like, now we go through so much of information and there is ads placed everywhere, and if agents are performing all of these tasks, where would ads go? What would Facebook do or Google do, right? So
yeah.
yeah, I think that's a very interesting thought experiment.
My wife already started to complain that I talk more with AI than humans. So, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's true, because if I look at my history in ChatGPT and all these, and like, maybe yeah, and I'm like, hey, sorry, that's what my job is, and
Yeah, crazy. So, Manjeet, great and interesting thoughts. So, I also want to learn about your Substack, right? Fittest product, the fittest product executive. What is it actually? What do you write there? And where can people go to visit to learn more about you?
yeah, sure. So, as I was saying, there are two or three priorities I have. One is, of course, the family. My kids are young, and but other than that, I limited my desires only into two pieces. One is uh, how to stay fit for long term, and I'm thinking more. I'm almost 45. How can I stay fit when I'm 100, 120, pain free? I wake up energetic, excited every morning, and what's needed, at least whatever in my hand. I mean, end of the day, we are very fragile, and but how can I stay fit and slow down the aging process? And people use the word longevity, so that's kind of top of my mind. Going back to why I'm like ended up picking like fittest product executive is I think I am holistically, if I look at, I'm one of the fittest. I do a lot of different things. I'm a fitness coach by the way, certified fitness coach trainer, and then I've trained almost 10,000 people.
Oh, wow.
Learned a lot over this, and then encapsulate that into kind of my blueprint of um, and then this writing and sharing Substack is more recent. I this year my goal is I would like to write more on these two topics. AI and fitness, and my top of the mind thought is that if you stay fit for a long time, and if you have the leverage from something, and AI gives us a lot of leverage, I think then as a PM, we ask like, hey, what's the impact? So I think I end up having better impact.
Okay.
So any you keep like maybe tips for product managers who want to be fit? I know everyone works so hard.
Yeah.
And with so much pressure, especially I think for a lot of PMs, I'm sure for everyone too, like and every company, think about AI, how AI can come into your product features, how that will fit. I'm sure like a lot of folks are busy. Like what are the tips that you would give? Just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And then I'll try to simplify it because see, I'm busy, work, very demanding work, working in this space, kids, wife. I have I also want to write more, and then so the question become is, where does this fitness thing fit into the play? I think what it comes down to is a little bit of prioritizing, but that advice is not helpful. We can say, hey, let's prioritize and let's eat well, and then, but how do we do it? So here's my kind of advice that is more actionable and easy to apply. First is fix your sleep, and then I would say start there. That's how I started almost more than a decade ago. Sleeping on time, waking up on time, and which means I sleep early by 10, wake up at 4:30 every day, which gives me 6.5, 7 hours. That's and you figure it basically, and you don't change it as a result of that. So now what's happening? I'm only doing one thing. I sleep on time and have enough sleep. I wake up early. I have time to do my workout. I have time to do those 2-3 hours before other priority kicks in. My kids needs me, or my work needs me, and those. And if you work out in the morning, everything else falls into the place. So that's how my mental model is. Rather than going, what is the workout plan and what is my diet plan? Of course, those things to me are the fine tuning, thinking in terms of AI, right? Those are the prompt optimization, fine tuning. Don't start there. Look at the fundamentals, and as you become, let's say, cross 40, I think sleep has the highest ROI, and then morning workout has the highest ROI. So those are my two tips. It's your sleep, work out in the morning, everything else will fall in place. Try it for 30 days. If it doesn't work, I will give you free coaching for another 30.
Okay, so then maybe me and Srinath will sign up soon. So, but like, what do you teach in your fitness programs? Is it more on, do you do CrossFit, or like what kind of exercises do you normally recommend people?
Yeah. So I call it kind of a cross training routine in a given week. So there has to be 2 strength training sessions, and then 1 or 2 stretching slash, low zone 2 cardio, like where you're not pushing yourself, and then 1 where you want to do more high intensity, where it's like you want to auto breath for 20 minutes. That's roughly, again, I'm doing kind of 80-20 sort of compression here, just like LLMs do compression. uh, and that gives you the best benefit in terms of, because those strengthening session will slow down your muscle loss and then will give you strength. Then if you do stretching and those, that keeps you mobile, you don't have the build of back pain or neck pain, or right. Because biggest problem that I see, everybody in my age group, everybody's maybe too strong. Majority of the people, they started to have pain, and there's no choice, they have to live with the pain. So how do you reverse it every day? How do you do 5 minutes of stretch, and that's what I ended up doing is I have a 5-minute workout, I have a 30 minutes workout, and I have 45 minutes workout, depending on the day, depending on the energy. But I sleep on time, wake up on morning, and do something every day.
Yeah, and for anybody to actually go check out the Substack. We'll give the link in the description. You can check it out and learn about product and fitness from Manjeet. Manjeet, right? If you were, so anybody wants to learn about agents or AI, right? Are there any resources that you would recommend?
There is ton of resources, but it's a problem actually. There's information overload, and then the real question they come is where to start and what to learn, what to follow. There's, I think, too much shallow advice out there. Uh, so here's how I would say is first is from what to learn standpoint. In if you go back to the way I was explaining agent is a little bit of some fundamentals of what is an LLM model, what is data retriever method, and then the basics, and then that will give you a mental model of what this technology can do and cannot do. And then you have to keep refreshing that because something that didn't work last week might work today. So as that's kind of a continuous learning in there. The second is you have to spend time with it. There is no other way I found. I mean, I was about a year ago, I was like, anytime I saw a good prompt, I was copying, pasting it and keeping it here. And I realized like, I mean, yeah, there's not a scalable way. So what is the best way? Just then I spend next 1 week is fundamentals of a good prompting. And then I don't keep any prompt anymore. I'm just like, I know I have to give it a role. I have to tell what I want, which format I want, and then and now I speak to it. I don't even type, so that burden is also gone because these models now can do the voice transcription easily. So, but I think we in Salesforce also we have we call them Trailhead course for AgentForce. If anybody listening who work in agent Salesforce ecosystem, that's the best resource. More curated, more our use cases. Then there's a bunch of courses on Coursera as well. YouTube has great content. Happy to ping me on LinkedIn. Happy to share some of the more curated my playlist, which I found it helpful. And then Twitter is another great one resource. It takes some time to figure out who to follow because Twitter is like such a diverse type of people. And then and the way I do is I created 2 lists in my Twitter. One is for again AI and fitness. I have 10-15 people that I follow. I don't go to my main feed because as always AI is throwing at me. I don't need that. I control what I want to consume, and it's an iterative process. I keep refreshing. If somebody's stop sharing useful insights, I unfollow them, and then I find another person, and it's easy to uh, and then schedule some time. I mean, again, going back to let's say if I will say only one thing in here is spend time with these tools. That's then it becomes the real learning, and you don't have to learn all the pieces. You don't really have to learn the entire. I mean, what the types of LLM is. No, don't. Unless you are like say your role is, let's say in my role, I have to really learn all those granular pieces. But for majority of the people, think of how do you applied side of it, not at the build and not at like the how do you train and fine tune and probably that's how I think about it.
Cool. And if you if you maybe I'll ping you, and if you can give that list, we will also put it into the description so that people can just like look at that and learn about agents. Awesome.
Yeah, and also I really liked your takeaway, like learn by doing. I think as we play with this, more probably we'll be learning a lot too. So that's pretty interesting there. I mean, and also Manjeet, thank you very much for your time. This was very helpful conversation. I personally learned a lot from AI agents perspective and also from fitness perspective, which I know which we don't often get, like a blend of both. So some you probably are inspiring to many folks who make excuses when they're busy. But I think you gave some good mantras there, so that's pretty helpful. Before closing this conversation, like for listeners out there who want to reach out to you for anything, like if they want to learn anything about AI agents or if they want to enroll into your fitness programs, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I think I'm pretty active on LinkedIn this year. So ping me there. I usually reply to all messages in the same week. Um, so I would say go there and I've been writing more through. If something is a kind of short thought, I put into LinkedIn, and if something is like, okay, it's worth more of an article, then I go to the Substack. For fitness, just search Coach Manjeet, and Instagram and TikTok and all that. So that's where in my morning routine when I work out, I capture a small clip of either me learning something or then teaching that. So I'm a big fan of kind of I call it a kind of the self-made athlete. That's who am I, and I want to do the same for AI, self-learned AI. So I think it's and that's to me is now I see the benefit of that mindset, because once you become a learning machine, that's I think is good for where the world is heading. Then I don't care. Oh, today is agent, tomorrow is whatever. I'll learn it.
Yep. I mean, that as long as the curiosity is there,
Right.
anything can come up. That's most important.
And you have to stay fit. Really, if I tell people, if you are sick in the bed, and I got flu a few days ago after a couple of years, and that thought was crossing my mind, and the only thing you care about is how can I get well. All the money problem goes away, all the agent and AI learning problem goes away. So I think the point I'm trying to make again is that keeping yourself healthy and then is important, and that's the only way to the longer healthy lifespan. That's I would say. And if you're tired and sick, I think no mountain is worth climbing. It'll be
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll add all this like contact information and the LinkedIn information, all that in the YouTube description, so folks can reach out to you. But thanks again, this is very helpful.
Hey, this thanks for having me, and and maybe next year we can a little bit of try to connect and see if I have more insights around what happened in the agent space in last like so.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would have revolutionized something.
Especially in the space when you learn something today, it's already old tomorrow, right? So things are changing so fast.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, some of these things you can only connect dots looking backward in terms of adoption. But the enterprise adoption is slow. It doesn't happen, in a week or 2 weeks. It takes, no matter, even if I give the best agent working agent, JPMC will take 3 months, 6 months or that, right? So that's where I think is I look at is like, okay, you will only look at, okay, this is when we start. This is when it really starts to become useful. And then the real adoption in production, where it's delivering value every day, deflecting cases and solving, booking my flights, and then what you name the use case.
I mean, who imagined like 2 years ago that AI would do something like what it's doing today, right? Like, I'm sure like many companies like Google probably they have been thinking about AI, but I felt like okay, maybe they are like kind of wait and watch, but suddenly everything got picked up.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just yeah.
I was just sharing a video with Srinath and my other co-host. Like I got access to Manus AI, this the Chinese company. Like I gave it a task and it was executing without, it was doing all of the things for me in the background. I was like, oh my God, if I actually have access to this, it saves so much time in my life. So yeah, it's moving so fast. There's so many things coming up. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot, Manjeet. Thanks for spending your evening with us and educating us with AI agents and all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. It was fun. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Manjeet.